What's up, freaks? It's your boy Marty here to introduce this episode of Tales from the Crypt. I have the immense pleasure of sitting down with rapper, author, podcaster, speaker, coach, and Oxford graduate, Zuby. Some of you may know him from Twitter at Zuby Music, a true free thinker and somebody who doesn't give in to political correctness or anything like that. So I was very happy to hop on the mic with him. We talked about a bunch of things, starting with how to use Twitter correctly. Twitter is a tool that, if leveraged correctly, can do very beneficial things for you and your career. So we talked about that. Zuby's actually coming out with a class on the exact subject of leveraging Twitter to better your career. In a couple weeks here, we talked about how people waste their lives basically hating other people, and they like to virtue signal that they're good people and people you should want to hang out with, and then you look at their actions on Twitter specifically, and it doesn't seem to be the case. And we also touched on the unhealthiness of letting politicians sort of dictate how you feel, and letting these individuals that you have no control over or have never met really affect your psyche and your life. And then on top, we talked about health, and then Bitcoin, of course. Zuby's got some interesting thoughts on Bitcoin and its potential success in the future. He believes it may be limited to a certain extent. This episode of Tales from the Crypt is brought to you by our good friends at the Cash App. You guys already know all about them. All right, they're helping us do many things. They're helping us stack sats. They're helping us stack slivers of sonks. And they're helping us save money at partner merchants with their Boost program. And then on top of that, they're now a bank account. If you don't want to use a traditional bank, Cash App's becoming a new bank of the future. They're offering users bank account numbers and routing numbers. You can use it to direct deposit funds into your account. If you want to get paid to the Cash App instead of a bank now, you can do that. It is possible. They're also helping people out with their stimulus checks, with their Trump bucks. So if you're somebody who hasn't had a traditional bank account in the past, up to this point, you have the Cash App and you want to take advantage of their bank services, they're helping you get your Trump bucks if you are eligible. So they'll walk you through that process. Again, Cash App investing is there. If you want to stack a sliver of stock, you can buy as little as $1 because Cash App is now a bank or is connected to your bank. There's no 4 to 5 day waiting period. You can start investing today. Cash App Investing is a subsidiary of Square and member SIPC. As always, freaks, as always, use the code STACKINGSATS. You're going to get $10, and $10 is going to go to our good friends at Al's Lacrosse. Use the code STACKINGSATS, download the Cash App, and enjoy this episode with Zuby. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Quick 1 hour rip. Touched on a lot of subjects. A very enlightened individual. Enjoy.
You've had a dynamic where money's become freer than free.
If you talk about a Fed just gone nuts, all the central banks going nuts.
So it's all acting like safe haven.
I believe that in a world where central bankers are tripping over themselves to devalue their currency, Bitcoin wins. In the world of fiat currencies, Bitcoin is the victor.
I mean, that's part of the bull case for Bitcoin.
If you're not paying attention, you probably should be.
Well, hey there, freaks. It's your boy Marty Bent here to introduce. What is up, freaks? Welcome back to Tales from the Crypt. It's your boy Marty Bent here. Monday morning episode. It's Monday morning where I am. It's Monday afternoon where my guest is. I'd like to introduce you freaks to Zuby, author, prolific tweeter, and the owner of the women's weightlifting title in England.
Hey,
what's going on,
How you doing? Yeah, I'm all good, man.
Doing good, man. Doing good. Really happy to have you on the podcast right now. Again, like we were just saying before I hit record, notice you've been tweeting more about Bitcoin recently, so just want to get your thoughts on Bitcoin, how you found Bitcoin, what you think of Bitcoin, and then beyond that, again, I really appreciate your ability to not cater to the PC police, to think for yourself, and in a very positive way too. You really try to encourage people to make the best of their situation and try to make their life better. So you're working on a course of how to use Twitter productively, and I'm somebody who believes Twitter is one of the best tools that's ever been created from a communication standpoint, and then networking. The way this podcast has sort of built itself is on Twitter. So I guess we can start with like just a little bit more background on yourself. How'd you get to tweeting about all this stuff, making this music, writing books, and sort of a plethora of side hustles, it seems.
Yeah. So primarily, everything for me in terms of being any kind of public figure started out with being a musician. I'm an independent rapper. So far, I've released 5 albums and 3 EPs independently on my label, COM Entertainment. Put out my first release more than 10 years ago, and sold tens of thousands of albums now independently without being signed to a record label or anything like that. So everything for me started out with just the music, and then stuff started really to diversify in 2018. I used to very specifically not put out too much non-music related stuff on my social media, let alone anything political or too much social commentary or anything, about religion or, anything that could be considered controversial or sort of shows too much of my own personal beliefs, anything like that. I figured, let me keep the personal and make the public stuff public. And then in 2018, due to a multiple of reasons, stuff started to shift a little bit, and I found myself just articulating more of my own thoughts and sharing more of my own genuine beliefs and personality and everything like that, and engaging people in conversation and creating discussions around that. And it turned out to be very, very popular. And then, of course, in February last year, I had a tweet go incredibly viral internationally, which was the women's deadlift video, where I identified as a woman for 9 seconds and claimed to have destroyed the British women's deadlift record. And then I broke the bench press one as well. And that video went crazy. The tweet did over 8 million impressions, was seen by people all over the world, ended up with a crazy amount of people, literally millions of people discovering me off of the back of that. And then following on from there, lots of people discovered my music and my podcast, Real Talk with Zuby, which I had also started at the beginning of last year. I wrote and released my first book last year, Strong Advice, and stuff has just grown and diversified. And a lot of people know me for a lot of different things. I've still got my audience, which is primarily just for my music and people who are fans of my music. And that's what they know about Zuby, and that's what they care about, and that's what they want. Then I also have fans who aren't even fans of my music and who are more into my podcast or my commentary or my interviews and whatever it may be. Then I've got other people who are more on board for the self-improvement and mindset stuff and fitness stuff. So anything I can offer people, which I'm interested in and which I have some expertise and ability in, I'm happy, ready, willing, and able to do it. I've sort of changed my approach over the years from thinking on a single track, just, okay, everything's got to be about the music, to thinking, you know what, I'm just going to be me. I will be Zuby. And the people who are naturally drawn to that will be drawn to it. And, the people who it's not for, then that's fine. I cannot please everybody. I'm not interested in trying to please everybody. I'm just going to be me. I'll be authentic. I'll actually keep it real, not just pay lip service to that statement. And things have grown a lot since then.
Yeah, I think that's what's drawn me to your Twitter account predominantly. That's how I know you mainly, is through your tweets, is the authenticity. And I think authenticity is something that's been lacking in culture in the last couple decades, particularly. A lot of people are being driven to extremes and sort of forced to fall in line with what a lot of, I would say, extremists, how they view the world, particularly the far left. And people have been self-censoring a lot, and it seems like you don't do that at all. So at what point did you realize that Twitter was like a powerful tool that you should sort of hone in on and leverage? Was it that tweet that went viral particularly, or?
No, I mean, it was before that. So I've been on Twitter since 2009. So I've always seen the value in it and seen how it can be useful in terms of communicating with and connecting directly with people. So, I mean, before I tweeted that deadlift video, I mean, I had 19,000 followers at that time. So, it wasn't like I had no audience or anything like that. A lot of people were already following me. A lot of people already knew me. It's just that happened to be the piece of content that really, really sort of just blew things out the water and led to dozens of thousands of more people following me, which led to more opportunities to go on some of the biggest podcasts in the world and be invited onto a lot of different radio programs and TV shows and everything like that. So I could not have foreseen that of all the things I do in the world, of all the things I've done in the world, that 9-second video would be the thing that so many people sort of ended up getting to know me for. But I think if that was all that I had to offer, then, that would have dissipated and fizzled out very, very quickly. But in my case, due to all the work I've already put in and my personality and all the other things that I have to offer, I was able to sustain a lot of that interest of people who initially just, came across a video that they thought was quite amusing. So, I think Twitter is a fantastic channel. I think it's the best social media platform by a long way. I don't even think it's, I don't actually think it's close. My big problem with Twitter is, some of the aspects of the moderation and things like that, but that's a problem across all the channels. But in terms of doing what it says on the tin, being an actual social network, right? Not just a platform to display videos or photos or whatever. In terms of actual social networking ability, I think Twitter, hands down, is the best of them by a very large margin. So I've seen the value in that for a while. And as someone who does a lot of things and has a lot of things to promote and likes to have conversations, then it's really a wonderful platform.
No, it really is, and especially if you know how to use it. That's what I've been on Twitter.
Yeah, and most people don't.
Right? So I've been on since 2011, and I started a newsletter in 2017. And when I started the newsletter, I think I had like 500 followers. I never really knew how to leverage Twitter until I was using it to sort of highlight my newsletter and promote my newsletter. And then people really liked the newsletter and they wanted a podcast. So that's when I started DMing people and realizing that you could DM people and they'd answer just like you did. When I tweeted at you, said DM me, and we set this up. Most people use Twitter wrong, though. They don't know how to use it. They don't know how to filter. They don't know.
Most people are terrible at Twitter.
Yeah. So
most people don't see the potential. Yeah, and most people don't see the potential of it either. That's the thing, right? I mean, it's funny when I hear people talking all this trash about Twitter, I'm like, look, it's not. That's because you don't know how to use it, right? I mean, you can say that about any tool, right? It would be like saying that a car is terrible because you don't know how to drive, and it's like, well, the car is a very useful tool, but if you've never learned how to drive and you're crashing into things, then of course it's going to be dangerous. Of course it's going to be harmful. Of course it's not going to get you to where you want to go. But if you know why you're using the platform and you have a goal and a motive that goes beyond just pure consumption or pointless entertainment. I don't want to say pointless entertainment, but mindless entertainment, let me say, then, you're not gonna get much from it. And, not everyone's a creator. Not everyone has things to promote. Not everyone is trying to grow an audience. And that's absolutely fine. But in terms of the sort of positivity ratio to negativity ratio, then I think, the vast majority of users could certainly manage that better. Because I think a lot of people, the way they use Twitter and social media in general, in the grand scheme of things, is probably more harmful for them than it is beneficial for them. I think that's, now that we're 15 years into this social media experiment or whatever, I think it seems quite clear to me. And even if I look at data and statistics on certain things, it seems like that also seems to be bearing out in that regard beyond the anecdotes. But all of these things, they're just tools, platforms, opportunities. And, with any tool you can choose. If someone gives you a knife, you can stab someone with a knife, you can stab yourself with a knife, or you can cut fruit and make food. So it's just the tool itself is amoral and somewhat neutral, but what happens is who you interact with, how you interact, what you bring to the table, and how you choose to use it. So I'm actually I've been working on a Twitter course that's going to help people to grow on Twitter and to monetize on Twitter and to really use the platform in a much better way than most people do. So that's actually going to be out in a couple of weeks from the point of recording this.
Boss. And no, I mean, it's a double-edged sword, right? You get some of the best information in the world, and then you get the hate replies, which if you just go to a Trump tweet and scroll down, there's people who dedicate their lives to just responding to his tweets negatively.
It's weird, isn't it? It's people need to reevaluate their lives. I mean, I made a joke a couple months ago about how Donald Trump is so good at real estate that he lives rent free in the minds of hundreds of millions of people, which is very, very true. And I'm not the thing with a lot of my commentary is it's funny because a lot of people take a lot of stuff, obviously Twitter, a lot of people take a lot of stuff the wrong way. And a lot of people I don't think realize that, I think a lot of people don't realize that I'm not as political as they think I am. Right. I think sometimes people think if I make a comment about Trump, I'm saying Trump because you brought that in. So if I make a comment about Trump, I'm normally commenting from a sort of amused spectator perspective. Do you see what I mean? I'm not commentating from a hardcore political pundit or like media personality or something who's there trying to analyze all of the ins and outs of the policies and this and that, right? I'm responding to the general, the more cultural aspects, the more psychological aspects or whatever, or even just stuff that I think is funny, right? If he posts a funny meme and I'm like, haha, this is funny. And then someone is there talking to me about, with a budget deficit and stuff. I'm kind of like, that's not what I'm addressing here. Like, I get what you're saying, but I'm talking about a whole different thing. I just like to, very interested in human beings and psychology and dynamics to that degree in the world. But I'm certainly not a journalist, and I'm not a journalist. I'm not an activist. I'm not someone who's got some huge political aspirations or something like that. It's just, I'm a spectator, especially when it comes to stuff that's outside of my country. I mean, even stuff within my country, but outside, it's just like, I'm just sitting back here watching the show. I'm commentating on this like I'd commentate on a sports match or like a TV show or something. You know what I mean? It's not like I'm not that deep into it. It's just interesting to do stuff. And then, also to just see people's responses, right? It's fun to put something out there and then say, okay, let's see what comes back from this.
No, I know exactly. I get accused of being a Trump supporter quite a lot because I also think he's funny. He's hilarious.
Well, yeah. Well, if you don't hate him, then you are automatically people will automatically assume that you're a sycophant. I've been called a Trump sycophant. I'm like, wow, I think I probably have tweeted about I've probably mentioned Trump on Twitter. Out of 70,000 tweets, I've probably mentioned him. I'd be surprised if maybe 100 max, whereas, you've got people who hate him who have literally thousands of tweets dedicated to the man, which is quite bizarre in itself. And yeah, look, even if someone calls me a Trump supporter, I don't care. I mean, I'm not even American, so I don't even know what that means. Like, do I want world leaders in general to do well? Yeah. Like if I'm on a plane, am I supporting the pilot? Yeah. I don't care. Would I have been considered an Obama supporter when Obama was president? Again, I'm not even American, but whoever's the prime minister of the UK, I want the prime minister to do a good job, right? I'm a British citizen. I don't want the prime minister to, whether I voted for them or not, I don't want them to do a bad job or to like mess stuff up, because it's like, well, I live in the country. Like, we want things to go well. You're never going to get a world leader. I mean, politics is silly for a lot of reasons. But one reason why politics is kind of silly is, people get firmly into these camps, but you're never even going to get a politician that most people like. Right? The percentage of people who actively support a politician is always going to be the minority. Even if you take someone who's popular, right? They're still going to have like maybe at a push, maybe like 30 or 40% of the population who's like genuinely strongly behind them. And then, I mean, most people don't even vote, do they? Like, most people don't even vote. So, you've already got sort of 60% of the population or whatever who doesn't feel strongly enough in any direction to even participate in the process. And then out of those who do, you've probably only got 10% on either side who are like really, really, and they're the ones who make all the noise. So it seems like there's way more of them, but most people kind of want to get on with their life, sort of be left alone, not have their rights trampled on, be happy, be able to send their kids to school and pay their bills and raise their family. And, I think Twitter makes everything seem a lot more extreme than it is in reality. Yeah,
that's why filtering and knowing how to filter the signal through the noise on Twitter is so important. And
yeah,
this is why Bitcoin, because I view Bitcoin as a system that's completely separated from the political system. Like, I'm one of those people who doesn't vote because I think South Park said it best. You're voting between a turd sandwich and a douchebag at the end of the day. You really don't have choice. It's an illusion of choice, in my opinion, voting.
Yeah.
And yeah, but and that's the one thing that has been interesting to see, that people want Trump to fail. So like with the whole Russiagate, the Russian bots, and this whole coronavirus thing, people are just looking for him to fall on his face so they can say,
it's weird. And that's bad. It's weird because the weirdest thing with the Trump phenomenon, and we have some degree of it also here in the UK, it's probably a thing, globally, is people get so caught up in the sort of team aspect, right, of like wanting their team to win, that they often just lose a side of their own humanity, right? And it's funny because so many things that people accuse Trump of being, they themselves are being those things to a much larger degree. So if you're someone let me give an example, okay? Somebody will say that they don't like Trump because Trump is divisive. And then that same person will refuse to be friends with or interact with somebody who voted for Trump. And they'll unfriend any person who, both in real life and on social media, who is a Trump supporter, right? They'll say that they think that he is intolerant towards certain people or he's being hateful. And then you'll go on their timeline and they will be saying the most hateful, awful things to people. Here in the UK, this is away from Trump. In the UK, Boris Johnson came down with the coronavirus. You had people on Twitter, right, who are Labour supporters, that's the opposition party here in the UK, and they're there wishing death upon the prime minister because they disagree with his politics, right? They want somebody to die because they disagree with their politics. And this same person will be the person who's talking about being kind and being tolerant and being, we need to be nice to people. You'll go to their profile and they'll have something in their profile about how we should be kind and how they're sick of political division. And then they're there talking about how they want the prime minister to die because they disagree. And it's like, look, you've lost your humanity, right? What should be more important? Coming back to this coronavirus situation, what's more important? Solving this pandemic or scoring political points, right? And that shouldn't be a hard question to answer. And it doesn't matter what side anybody is on, right? This isn't even aimed at one side or the other. It's like, look, this is it's a pandemic. It doesn't discriminate. It's a virus. It's not part of a political team. It's not sexist. It's not racist. It's a virus, right? It hurts people. Okay. It makes people sick. And you've got people who have just lost the plot. They're so into the political aspect that they can't even take their brain outside of that for a moment and think, oh, okay, actually, this isn't really about politics, right? This is about like human lives. This is about health. This is about all that. But everyone's just trying to politicize. And it gets tiring. And so coming back to what you're saying, I mean, if you have people, I mean, maybe they won't vocalize this. Some of them probably would, but not everyone will vocalize this. But, you have people who are out there and they're quietly hoping that Trump mishandles the situation, because then that'll make it easier to beat him in the re-election. And by him mishandling the situation, they know that means unnecessary, like people dying unnecessarily. But to that person or to certain people, that's kind of collateral damage for them reaching their political goals. And I'm like, that's effed up, right? That's actually evil. That's the actual evil. Do you see what I mean? If you're happy for people to die because it makes it easier for you to score political points, then you need to take a long, go walk by the lake and look in the mirror, look in the lake and see your reflection and think about what your priorities in life should be. That's kind of how I look at it.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's incredibly sad too that politics takes up so much talk about real estate in people's minds. Like government is I mean, at least here in the United States, the democratic republic that we put forth in 1776, the government was just supposed to do very little. And now it's all anybody can talk about or anybody can focus on. Like imagine the creativity and ingenuity that would be unleashed if people didn't have to focus on politics and didn't fight about it every waking hour of every day.
Yeah, it's a distraction, and people always draw these false binaries, right? I can post something saying something like, look, the government isn't going to save you. If your life sucks, it's not the government's fault. And if your life is great, it's not because of the government, right? Unless you're living in some super totalitarian dictatorship or something like that. Obviously, I'm not talking about that. But if you live in the UK, the USA, Western Europe, whatever, the government is not going to make or break you, right? How many people have you ever met who became successful because their candidate won, right? It's not a thing that happens, right? That's always going to be on you. And it's weird. People draw this fake binary sort of like, oh, well, if you're saying that there should be no government, or you're saying that none of this matters or whatever. I'm like, no, I'm not saying none of it matters, right? There's a value in having a government, especially if you're talking about certain, there are certain things where, unless someone's like a full blown hardcore anarchist, it's like, okay, like we need some semblance of a government for a multitude of reasons. But the expectation that they're going to do everything, or they're going to take you from being a loser, basically, who to being someone who's like super successful, is like, that's not going to happen. So all that time and energy and all of that, it's like, look, you can every 4 years, go and vote if you want to vote. But what are you doing in the 4 years in between each of these cycles? You know what I mean? What is were you super happy and successful when Obama was president, and then Trump came and he destroyed your family and took away your job? And no, he didn't. So it's like, look, whoever is in that seat, that's just one individual. And in a country like the US, I mean, you got 330 million people. And I can assure you that one person is not, one person certainly should not in any way, shape, or form have so much control over people's emotions and outcomes and success and everything like that. And the quicker people can realize that and detach themselves from it, even in a degree, then I think people will generally be happier. I think there will be naturally less polarization and less division and less, just judging people based on who they, it's like you've gone through all these strides to get rid of these other forms of bigotry and discrimination and stuff. And now it's like, okay, or, discriminating against people based on who they vote for or what candidate they like or whatever. And that's like totally cool. And it's just, I don't know. It's very immature too. That's the funny thing, is it's like really, really immature. It's like a sort of 4-year-old view of the world that, oh, I think this and this person thinks that. So the only way that's possible is because they're evil and I hate them. I mean, that's literally how a sort of 3-year-old might look at the world. And it's sort of sad to see full-grown adults thinking that because someone, has a slightly different view or likes a different candidate than they do, that they can't interact or they can't be friends or they can't be cool with each other or work together or anything like that. I just think it's, I don't know, it's sad. And I wish people would just recenter themselves a little bit and sort of think about how I think people get embroiled in it so much for such a long period of time that they struggle to take that step back and just be like, does it make sense for me to be spending 4 years, spending 3 hours a day for a 4-year period talking about someone or criticizing something that I've never, criticizing someone I've never even met, right? No matter who that person is. I don't know.
Yeah. And it's almost like a subconscious tell too, that people don't want to take personal responsibility for their own lives and take agency over their lives. They want to allocate their strife to that one man in office.
Yeah. And this is the thing, and this is the problem. I mean, I spend a lot of time trying to empower people, to be honest with you. I try to empower people not in a cheesy way, not in a sort of guru, pokey sort of way, but is in, yes, you're the captain of your ship. No one is going to have a greater impact on your success or failure or happiness or whatever than you. This is just the truth, right? No politician, no sports team, there's no other person. I mean, it's great to have awesome family, awesome friends, everything like that. But ultimately you are the person, whoever you are, wherever you are, it does ultimately come down to you. You can't control everything in life, but you can control how you behave. You can control how you react to things. You can choose to make good decisions or bad decisions. This goes across everything. I mean, I'm really into my fitness. It goes across everything. This is the food you choose to eat every day. What do you choose to drink every day? Do you choose to exercise or do you choose not to exercise? Do you choose to work on your dreams, or do you just sit back and watch Netflix and play video games and expect magic to happen, right? Whatever it is you want to do, you have to take action. And wherever you are in life, that's going to be the culmination of all those decisions. So what I try to do really is to just get people to realize that, personal responsibility, it's become this sort of dirty term in a lot of people's brains. It's like everyone wants to outsource everything. They want to outsource their emotions, outsource their success, outsource their happiness, outsource everything. And it's like, look, if you rely on, a couple weeks ago, for example, when Bernie Sanders stepped out of the race generally, okay, and you're seeing people on social media crying, okay, or when Trump got elected, you see people crying actual tears, like screaming, like freaking, as if their mother or child has died, right? Bawling, not like I'm not even going to sugarcoat. I'm like, that's freaking ridiculous. That is ridiculous, right? Whether your person wins or loses, what it's like, if you are crying and you're bawling your eyes out over it, you're in too deep, or that means that you put your happiness, you put all your happiness, all your joy, everything that you need and want in life, you put that in someone who you do not even know. You put that in another human being, and not just in a person, but in a process that you already know isn't necessarily even stacked in your favor. And it's like, why would you do that? People do the same with sports, right? Like I like sports in general, but I'm not really a sports fan. Like I don't watch stuff, I don't follow stuff, I don't support teams. But it would be like me being, okay, I like this soccer team. I like Manchester United. Okay. If Manchester United win, then I'm happy. If they lose, I'm unhappy. And it's like, that is a crazy thing to do, right? I'm not even playing. I'm not even one of the players. Even the players should be able to be happy even if they lose the game. But it's like, I have no control over that whatsoever. It's not like directly there. And I just think it's so weird how many people are willing to live life like that and just put all their emotions and their success and whatever in other people, when they could just be like, oh, you know what, actually, sure, I would like for this person to win, or this party, or I would like this sports team to win, I would like that to happen, whatever. But you know what? If it doesn't go my way, I'm still good, right? If it doesn't go my way, I can still achieve all of my goals in life. I can still be happy. I can still find love and have a loving family. I can still have great friends. I can still enjoy my hobbies. I can still do my work. I can still do everything. And yeah, it's, I know why some people don't do that, because it then means that the personal responsibility is on them, right? They don't have anything else to blame if they do that. But I do wish that more people would take that approach. And that's sort of one of the underlying messages of everything that I promote.
No, and thank you for promoting it and spreading that message, because it is terribly important. If you cheer harder, the team's not going to win. It's not how it works. And
exactly.
And it is sad, but I do think people are starting to wake up to this. It's like, because things are at least socially pretty bad. Everybody's driven to each side of the polarization spectrum, and I think people are starting to wake up to the fact that mainstream media is just out there to manipulate you. And that's one thing I liked. Yes. You tweeted the other day as well, is you haven't been watching TV or mainstream TV in quite some time, and the importance of unplugging from that and plugging into good sources when filtered correctly, like Twitter, is infinitely good for your well-being and in the state of your psyche overall.
Yeah, man, definitely. I mean, I don't know. You've just got to. There's almost everything around us. Certainly, anything that comes from a government or a corporation is designed to influence you in some way, shape, or form, right? And this isn't me saying that that this is normally nefarious or anything like that, right? Companies are trying to sell products and services, and governments are trying to shift people this way or shift people that way or whatever. But if you understand that everything, like if you're watching the news, there is a reason they want you to watch the news. If you're watching something on Netflix, or you're watching like whatever, everything is always trying to influence you and is also influencing you. Now, some people are more easily influenced than others, but we all get influenced by things. And I think people need to just consider what an optimal balance is, right? Rather than just allowing themselves to kind of sit in some sort of vegetative state and just have stuff sort of channeled into their brain and being told what to think, told what to believe, told what is, everything, and they're not questioning it, then that becomes a problem. So I'm not someone who thinks that. I don't know if this is just people being obtuse. I know people sometimes don't use their brains properly. So when I did that tweet I think I said something about I haven't had a TV since 2009. A lot of people, firstly, it's funny how strongly people wanted to defend their TVs, but it's like I'm not even talking about the TV as the tool. When I say TV, I'm talking about television programming, right? I'm talking about the mainstream stuff that most people are going to be watching, whether that's the big news channels or that is like certain, popular reality TV shows or whatever. A lot of it is, some of it is just garbage, but a lot of it is, like I said, it's designed to influence you, and it's less of an issue to watch stuff when you know that that's happening. But if people are in that world for so long, it's like they don't even realize what's going on. I mean, if I sit down and I watch, like when I was in the States last year, it's funny in the States because when you go to different houses, it's like you have the Fox News households and you have the CNN households, and it was like, and depending on which one, you got that giant TV in the corner or on the wall, and depending on which one is on, you can see how strongly that influences and reinforces what people already believe or which way people are already leaning or feeling it. You can have the same conversation. If you have this one conversation in the CNN house and then you have that same conversation in the Fox News house, it's like they're almost in different worlds. You see what I mean? It's because they don't want to like really cross that gap either. And that's just something that I found quite interesting. And it shows the power of it. I know with the internet and stuff being more decentralized and us being able to control stuff more, we have a lot more influence and control over these things. But when it comes to TV, it is literally programming, right? People are programmed through channels. And I think with a lot of the rhetoric people use, a lot of the thoughts people have, a lot of it, people think that the ideas are coming from them, but in many cases they're not. They're really sort of just regurgitating or repeating things that they have heard, whether they're right or wrong. Sometimes those things are not even factually correct. And I think that's, like you said, I do think people are slowly waking up to it more, but I think the Great Awakening is still a way away, I think.
You think so?
Yes, I do think so.
I'm more optimistic. It's closer around the corner, and that's probably because I focus on Bitcoin a lot and just being part of that sort of build out and focusing on Bitcoin and noticing the power that it gives the individual.
Yeah, sure. Well, that already puts you in the 1%.
Yeah. Why do you think? Why do you think it's going to take longer?
Well, look, I mean, what I mean is the fact that you and I could even have a conversation about Bitcoin is a sign that you're not even remotely close to being in the majority, right? So if you're talking about the masses of people, right? If you're talking about the majority, I mean, what percentage of people even really know what Bitcoin is, right? You're very much an early adopter. You just on that, it's clear you're already someone who sees and thinks somewhat differently, because the average person in the majority right now just thinks that, if they've even heard of Bitcoin, then they probably think it's a scam or a Ponzi scheme, or it doesn't make sense, or it has no value because it's not backed by the government or whatever. Like that's the mainstream way of thinking, right? That's the main way of thinking. So even by being intrigued by Bitcoin, you are already showing yourself to be somewhat of a rebel compared to the majority of people, let alone being someone who believes in it and is like, okay. So if you talk, here's an example. So with what we were just saying, I imagine if you spoke to people in the Bitcoin world, all of them already will know that, oh yeah, the media, of course the media is biased. Of course the political system's like that. Of course they already know that, right? Because you're speaking to kind of a very select group of people who are like already enlightened in one regard, So it's quite likely they're already enlightened in a lot of these other regards. But when I say it will take longer for that great awakening, I mean for that to cross over into, I don't know, 50% plus of the population being like, oh, okay, I see how this is working. And, just questioning stuff a little bit more. It doesn't mean you don't believe anything or whatever, but just being a little more like, a little more skeptical, a little bit more aware of how certain things are going on.
Yeah, well, I think this coronavirus global lockdown is having people quarantined in their homes, starting to question a lot going on the internet and listening to interviews like this.
Yeah, man, it'll take time. I don't know. I think this is kind of a non-statement, but I think it means something. The majority is always going to be the majority. And I don't know. I mean, maybe in some of these regards, some of these sort of fringe or minority ideas will eventually become the mainstream and majority ones. But by something being on the fringe, by definition, it already means that it's not mainstream. It's not something that the vast majority of people have adopted or are thinking or are using or whatever. So stuff that is on the fringe, but stuff that's on the fringe, by the time it becomes mainstream, then there's something else that's on the fringe. And that's just kind of how it works. Just like in music, you've always got the underground, and an artist can go from underground to mainstream. But you're always going to have the underground, right? When that happens, then there's another artist or another band or whatever who kind of comes up to that underground place. And I think that we'll see here. We'll see here. In terms of some, if talking Bitcoin specifically, I do think there's a strong potential for large scale adoption. To what degree that goes, I do not know. I think that's dependent on a whole lot of factors, but I think it'll certainly, I don't know what percentage of the population holds or uses Bitcoin right now, but, I think it's certainly got potential to 10, 20, 30, 50x. I don't know if it'll ever be, I know you have some people who are in the Bitcoin world who think that it's going to sort of totally disrupt and replace the entire monetary systems and replace entire currencies and things like that. I'm quite skeptical of that view. I think it'll certainly cause some disruption, and I think it has a very strong use case and a lot of room for growth and adoption. Are we going to live in a world which is, everything we pay for is in Satoshis and there's no dollars and there's no pounds and stuff like that? I don't think so, but I think that there will be sort of parallel systems, and the system that is currently on the fringe will, reach a stage where it might even still be minority, but everyone's at least heard of it and considered it, or maybe uses it to some degree.
I'm one of those psychos who believes we'll be on a Bitcoin standard one day.
Okay, there we go. Okay, no, I don't think it's psycho. I just don't think it's. I don't think that. Yeah, I see. I think there are too many challenges for that to happen for me to think that is the most likely thing. Do I think it's possible? I think most things are possible. But I think that, it would take, I don't know. I mean, I don't know at what stage the US would be like, like, we're not even going to make these dollars, right? That's just, or I don't know. I think there are too many. Firstly, I just think human beings, I think the concept of Bitcoin, maybe if it can be really, really simplified and sort of dumbed down in a way, then that will seriously help adoption. But I think Bitcoin is too complicated for the average person. As it stands right now, I mean, I'm a computer science graduate. Like I totally get it. I understand how money works in general, right? I understand money better than the average person in terms of some of the flaws of the current monetary system and economics and all that. Most people don't have a clue about any of this stuff. So even if trying to explain Bitcoin to most people is difficult, it can be done, but it's difficult. And I think until it becomes somehow like very simple and very easy to use too, right? So you don't have to memorize this code or use this, just when stuff becomes like really, really simple, then I think there will be much greater adoption. But there are, as it currently stands, there are still a lot of challenges, I think, in that regard.
Yeah, I think it's just going to take time. I think it may take like a full generation for it to get to a threshold of adoption that would put it on the world stage as a currency competing with the dollar and the pound.
Wow. How much would it be? How much would one Bitcoin be worth by then? Done the math on that.
It depends. I mean, gold market cap at like 7 trillion is like 300,000. So the Bitcoin argument is that there's never been a better store value to exist on the planet, and so you have opportunity cost with store value. You can choose gold, you can choose real estate, you can invest in the stock market and chase yield. But the fact that there's only 21 million Bitcoins, you can audit the ledger. It's not centrally controlled. It's going to be very hard to, if not impossible, to raise that 21 million cap. You have certainty that it is going to be a store of value. If you buy X amount of Satoshis, the percentage that those Satoshis represent of the overall pie is going to be static. And so in a world in which other stores of value like gold and real estate, their supply is, even though it's not growing at an insane pace, it is still growing, and Bitcoin is just a better option. And so from the Austrian view, the Austrian economic point of view, if we believe that there is a truly open competitive market for currencies, the one with the best properties, the best hard money property is going to win out in the long run. So people will, the opportunity cost of not storing your value in a hard currency like Bitcoin as opposed to something else is going to get too high at a certain point. Certainly not there yet at $130 billion market cap. But as people keep adopting it and people keep learning about it, and as it gets easier to use, it'll become more apparent to people. And the opportunity cost of holding a bunch of your value in real estate or the stock market as opposed to Bitcoin will be too high. And that's the thesis.
Yeah, I understand it from a theoretical point, but on a human point, do you know what immediately makes me think that that's the immediate thing that comes to my mind? There is that most people don't even have savings, and most people don't even invest in the stock market, and most people don't own any gold as it stands. So, and these things have been around for a very very long time, and most people don't even save money. Like the money we already have. Like people aren't even thinking about what vehicle to put it into or whatever. If you're already thinking that way, do I go real estate, stock market, Bitcoin, gold, you're already in the minority, like just by even thinking that.
Well, that brings up a very, very good point as well. That has not always been the case. It's sort of a product of our current condition. And that's why when people talk about politics and red team versus blue team, I sort of roll my eyes. I'm like, that's not the problem. The money's the problem. The easy monetary policies that existed since 1971, since the U.S. went off the gold standard, has been sort of the cause for a lot of pain in the economy. And it's the reason why people can't save, because the debasement of the currency is, number one, force both parents into the workforce. And then if they are both in the workforce, sometimes one or both are working multiple jobs or working paycheck to paycheck. We're at a point here in the States where 60% of Americans can't afford a $400 emergency expense or something like that. Yeah. And so, but that has not always been the case. It's their purchasing power. They don't have a vehicle through which they can save, because their purchasing power is being inflated away over time.
I get that aspect. I certainly understand what you're saying, and I agree with a lot of it. I just think this is what I've just learned and what I just believe on the world is, and it's part of why I enjoy theories, and I enjoy understanding different like ways of viewing things, or different ideologies, whether that's economic systems or political systems or whatever. And humans are always going to human. This, it's like the problem is, sure, money there are these issues with the current monetary system. The bigger issue is that people are freaking awful with money. Right? Like, that's kind of the bigger issue. Sure, could the system be changed so that it makes it easier for people to save or people to invest or whatever? Sure, right? Could wages perhaps be raised in this way, or could that happen? Sure. But the average person is just bad with money. So no matter how perfect the money were, no matter how ideal the system is, whatever, unless it comes accompanied with like, you know, starting with children, right? Unless it comes with some super hardcore education on economics and understanding money and everything like that, then it's just like you have people who have, you know, who have 6-figure salaries and they still live very paycheck to paycheck because they're not, you could have someone who's like got a low salary, but actually is really, really good with money. And you can have someone who like actually earns a lot, but they're just terrible. You know, they're terrible at managing it and they don't know how to use it and whatever. And they just, so, and unfortunately, maybe this is, I'm an optimistic person, but I'm pessimistic on this front in that I just think human beings, you know, there's always going to just be a percentage of human beings who are, and I think it's going to be a majority who are just not great at any particular, you know, at that. If you take anything that there's a capacity to be good at, then the majority of people are always not going to be good at it. You know, like if you take any one thing, then it's like the majority are not going to be good at it. We were talking earlier about using Twitter. Okay, like there's 300 million people on Twitter every month, and the people who use Twitter really well, is it 5% maybe, right? Maybe 5% of all those users sort of use the thing well. It could be anything. It could be a physical activity. It could be a sport. It could be anything, right? The majority at that one thing, most people are good at something, but if you take any one thing, I just think the majority are always not going to be good at it. And then I also think in terms of sort of when you add in the government and the media and the educational system and all that, like unless all of that is really overhauled, then I think there is unfortunately there's quite a lot of incentive to keep people somewhat in the dark. You know, I don't think that it's really to the benefit of the government for them to be broadcasting how many dollars they print every day, or to be showing people the ins and outs of this or that, or, you know, and it's unfortunate. I feel the same way when it comes to health and nutrition, right? I mean, it's crazy. I mean, if you want to talk about education, the two things that seem glaringly obvious that should be like very strongly in the educational system is like money and economics and finances, like that whole world. And then like health and fitness and nutrition and all that. Because no matter who you are, you're going to deal with health and you're going to deal with money, right? No matter who you are, what you do, where you live, health and money are two things that are important to understand how to manage for every single adult. And as we've already said, most people are bad at both of them. And I don't think this is my conspiracy hat coming on here. I don't know if that is accidental, right? I don't think it's necessarily accidental that most Americans or most British people don't know how to manage calories, or how to, you know, or why exercise is so important, or why you should eat this instead of that, or whatever. Like, I think people are intentionally left in the dark because there is some, you know, unfortunately there are benefits to certain people to do that. So I think unless you go out there on your own accord and really want to learn about that and go, okay, you mentioned Austrian economics earlier. Who even knows what Austrian economics is? I know what it is. Do most people, you know what I mean? Like, but you weren't taught that in school, I'm sure.
No, I wasn't. I studied economics in school. We did not touch on Austrian.
Exactly. Keynesian and what's the other?
Neoliberal Keynesian, basically. That's what I was force-fed. And a little bit of monetary theory. No, but I completely agree. I would say there are incentives to not have people aware of these facts, that they should be healthy and they should care about the money. I mean, who was it? Henry Ford that said if people knew how the banking system was run, they'd riot in a day. And then, like, if anything, this coronavirus thing is really driving that home. You know, like, who was the most susceptible to succumbing to this virus? It's obese people, older people. But after older people, it's obese people, and all the solutions to the problem, and like vaccines and medicines, and nobody's talked about preventative health. Like, actually, maybe you should work out and eat right.
Look, we need when people say healthcare, they need to change what they even mean by that, because 90% of healthcare is on you, right? Healthcare shouldn't just mean like oh crap, I've had a crash and I now need help. Healthcare is what you choose to eat every day. Healthcare is your exercise regime. Healthcare is your daily habits. Healthcare is how you handle your relationships and communications with other people. It's what you view on social media and what you input into your brain, your eyes and your ears. All of that is healthcare, right? Like the majority of healthcare is it's on you. Like I take care of my health every day. That's healthcare. I don't know why people think it just comes down to what doctors and nurses and surgeons can do for you. Sure, that should be called emergency healthcare, right? Because that's when something is already, oh crap, something's gone wrong. You've got a virus. Oh, you broke your leg or something. Okay, now I need some emergency healthcare. But the healthcare is, not running and playing in the street to begin with, so I don't, hurt myself or avoiding doing certain things or exercising or whatever, because that's all prevention. And I think, certainly as a modern society and a modern Western world, and maybe globally, we focus too much on the cure rather than the prevention. And prevention is important. And as we said earlier, you have a lot more control over the prevention than you do the cure in most cases. It's a lot easier to not get, it's a lot easier to not get obese than to go from obese to healthy. It can be done, right? Of course, someone who's very overweight can become healthy again. But you know what? It's if I have a recommendation for someone, I recommend you don't let yourself get to that stage to begin with, right? I recommend you don't get yourself in $50,000 debt, because it's a lot harder it's easier to not get in that debt than to be in it and then, claw your way out of it. And humans are weird. It comes back to what I was saying. Humans are going to human, right? People are happy to lock themselves up for months on end and lose their jobs and everything because of a virus that has a 0.1% chance of killing them if they're in certain demographics. But that same person, will look at me weird if I tell them to stop drinking 5 times a week and to go to the gym. I don't know. It's weird.
All right. It is. You get the fluoride stare when you say that. Like, what are you talking about? Like,
yeah. When I promote exercise and nutrition, some people look at me like I'm some kind of alien or whatever, or people come with the whole like, oh, you're shaming people or you're trying to tell people what to do or what. It's like, okay, if you think that diseases care about your being politically correct, then we have another thing in store for you. As you said, coronavirus, it's much more dangerous if people are obese. It's much more dangerous if people smoke, right? All these things that people have been trying to excuse for all these time and say, oh, it has no effect. It has no effect on what it does. It doesn't care. Like, facts are facts. Okay. Someone might not like to hear that being 100 pounds overweight is putting them at risk of a whole bunch of diseases and problems. People don't want to hear that. It's uncomfortable, but it's like, that's the truth. Someone saying that isn't trying to necessarily fat shame you, or they're not saying it because they don't like you or what. In fact, maybe quite the opposite, right? Maybe they want you to live. Maybe they want you to be healthier, and they don't want you to die of heart disease or diabetes or whatever. And I don't know. I think this is part of why I'm very it's part of why I'm very anti-political correctness in some regards, because I think that too much political correctness is actually very dangerous, right? It's actually dangerous because you can't tell the truth. And if you can't tell the truth, then that should be concerning for a lot of levels. I mean, it's concerning for a health level. If a doctor is trying to be politically correct and, they get a patient who is morbidly obese, and in the name of political correctness and feelings, the doctor doesn't want to just tell them the truth and be like, look, you need to lose all of this. You need to lose a lot of this weight or you're going to be in big trouble, right? They want to dance around, and society wants to tell them, oh no, you can be healthy at any size, or big is beautiful, and body positivity and this. I'm like, you're killing people. You're not the one who's being nice. You're killing people with that advice, right? You're killing them by coddling in such a way. And it's better I'd rather be the person who's viewed as like a villain for being like, look, this is the reality, and some people don't like that, and some people may attack me for it or whatever, but it's like, look, I'm not going to go out of my way to like be offensive or insulting to people or whatever. And I really don't do that. But ultimately, the truth is just the truth. If someone is and it's weird because people do this in different ways, right? If someone is like a very heavy smoker, then people are okay generally with saying like, okay, that's not good. That's not healthy. That's putting you at risk of this and risk of that or whatever. But if it's someone who is, instead of smoking a pack of cigarettes a day, they're eating 5 pizzas a day, then suddenly people are very hesitant to want to let that person know, or say generally, not even targeted at an individual, say, okay, like that's the problem, right? That's not good. That's bad for health. Yeah, I don't know. I'm a little bit of a rant there, but just my thoughts on some of that.
No, to get back to the incentives, it's just easier for the doctor to be like, hey, take this pill. You got high blood pressure. Take this pill. It should help you with it.
Of course it is. Yeah.
He may be making money on the back end on that. Again, going back to incentives, like, is the healthcare system actually incentivized to get people healthier? It's one of the biggest industries in the world.
It's a very good question.
Yeah.
It's a very, very good question. I don't know, but again, stuff comes back to personal responsibility. And in fact, people should be more willing to take personal responsibility once they understand that no one else is guaranteed to have your best interests in mind besides you. Right? You know, maybe the healthcare industry does have some ulterior motives or perverse incentives. Maybe the government has some ulterior motives or perverse incentives. Maybe the media has that. Maybe all this. So it's like, okay, so the best you can do is, you know, you can't avoid everything and you don't want to, but have that awareness, you know, at least do what you can personally to put yourself in the best position possible, you know, mentally, financially, relationships, health, everything, you know, do what you can. And yeah, you know, sometimes stuff will go wrong, but you know what? Most of the time it'll go right if you make good decisions.
I agree. One of the action items you tweeted out the other day, I'm actually trying to do, is to leave my phone outside the bedroom when I go to bed. That's one thing.
Oh, definitely do that, man. You'll sleep a lot better. Turn it off and just leave it in like whole nother room.
Yeah. Trying to do that. No, I'm bad with that. I'm just like always scrolling through Twitter late at night like an idiot.
Yeah. But
well, yeah, we're an hour in here. What do you have coming up? You have this course coming up. You've got your book, Strong Advice. That's been out for a while. Did I see you have an album coming out as well?
I've got a single coming out.
A single coming out, yeah.
Yeah, a single coming out on the 8th of May. That's called Okay Dude. Hopefully we'll have a music video for it too. I've got my book out right now, Strong Advice, Zuby's Guide to Fitness for Everybody. That's available through my website, teamzuby.com, on ebook and audiobook. I'll do another paperback run later in the year, but that's currently sold out. And then, I've got a new course coming out with my friend, Jose Rosado. That is going to be called Conquering Twitter. So that is going to be teaching people how to grow and engage on Twitter, build a fanatical audience, sell items, create courses, make money. So anyone who wants to really sort of step up their Twitter game and go from using it as something that's sort of aimless and pointless to being something that they can really grow through and build their business or start a business and actually make friends, make money, improve their overall life through it, then we're going to teach people how to do that.
Boss, thank you for your time. Really appreciate it. Thank you for all you do. I think the freaks are going to love this episode. Keep crushing it, man.
Most welcome.
Peace and love, freaks.